that. Plus, I'm going to show you what the screen over here is doing. That's pretty fun. But without further ado, Mr. Phil Chidas.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
From Barrel Roll Creative. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you, Drew. And I just wanted to thank the Code RGB guys. They've been doing some really good stuff here. I've been very impressed ever since I met them. So thanks to them for having me. It's my first time talking here, so I'm excited. So my talk is going to be about starting with Photoshop and Illustrator. I'm going to basically introduce some of the basics, and we'll see what we can do with the program. But I guess to first introduce myself, I guess again. So I'm the creative director at Barrel Roll Creative. Full disclosure, I have a day job that I work with IDEA Public Schools as well, so I do creative services for them as well. But this is a company I started with two, I guess, co-founders about 3 years ago. And yeah, we've done everything from web development to logo design to branding, and I guess most recently kind of mobile app development as well. And yeah, I love working with Jaime, who hopefully you guys saw speak previously. He's an excellent developer, and he's my business partner. So yeah, that's me. So I thought I'd maybe show you some of our previous work. This is our website, which hasn't been updated in quite some time, but we're working on that. And let me show you some of the work that we've done in the past. We worked with Cellular One, Magic Valley. Actually, Magic Valley has been one of our best clients. They were with us when we first started, and they've been great. We've done website design for them, actually mainly website development, and they've been a great client. I've enjoyed working with them because I started doing design when I was like in high school. I started off doing kind of like merchandise, for like the band I was playing with at the time, and so I really just kind of like fiddled around with Photoshop, as maybe some of you have, and I just experimented with what I could do. So I always kind of reflect on where I started and then kind of all the work that I've been doing recently, and especially ever since I started Barrel Roll Creative, and it's kind of fun to see, the journey and the progress. So like I said, we've done mainly website design for these guys. We've also worked with, like I said, Cellular One. Rackspace is a great company that hopefully you guys all know about. We did a website for them called Rack Stories, which is basically highlighting their kind of clients and how they utilize Rackspace during for their company. So we did that. It was really awesome to work with them because they're such a massive company. Hey Jason, what's going on, man? It's all good. Yeah, I worked with McAllen Metro as well. I did this website, the website design. I think that's still up. I haven't checked it in a while, but we were really big fans of their big green buses. You guys have seen them, obviously. Hopefully, rode them. And we wanted to give like a kind of a website design that really highlighted the big green bus. This is one of my personal favorite designs because it's like coming out of the screen, right? I kind of wanted to make it like drive off into like your life. So we were happy with that one, and I think it's still up. Cool. So anyway, that gives you a quick taste of the work we've done before. Yeah, Act Now, they've been with us since the beginning as well. They've been a strong client, and we always loved their mission about like trying to just get out the vote. Trying to get people to come out and vote for whoever. It doesn't matter which party, it doesn't matter which platform. Just get out and utilize your power to vote. Again, it was a good client to work with, and we're still working with them. We did their website design. We've done a lot of print material for them as well. So again, all of these clients were utilizing Photoshop and Illustrator. InDesign is another application that I use every single day, but we'll be concentrating on Photoshop and Illustrator. So to kind of get back to it, here's what we'll be covering. What I want to talk about is when to use which program. I think that's really important. I'll also go into a little bit of like why we should use each program. From there, we'll dive into Photoshop, and I think I want to show you guys kind of just a quick video of like what's possible, just a quick little fun thing, and then we'll actually get into the program so you can kind of see what we can do. From there, we'll do the exact same thing for Illustrator, and then after that, we can have open discussion, question and answers if you guys want to ask me anything. So, okay, Photoshop versus Illustrator. Okay, raise your hand if you've opened and used Photoshop? Awesome. How about Illustrator? All right, about the same. Okay, cool, cool. And you guys have like made something, like, or I mean, was it just fiddling around, like, just trying it, just trying it? Okay. I mean, for me, yeah, it takes practice. It takes practice. It's a time, you know, it takes time. So Photoshop, super easy to understand. If you need to edit photography, you're doing Photoshop. You're using Photoshop. If you want to illustrate something, you're an Illustrator. It's really that simple. I think some people tend to mix and match the programs and use Illustrator to do certain things that maybe like InDesign can do. But one of the very first disciplines I learned early on was use the program that it's built for. Photography editing, yes, there's like Adobe Lightroom and a lot of more extensive programs these days that you can use to edit photography, but you can do some magical things with Photoshop. So, for example, you've got this Batman poster. It's a still photo. That's Photoshop. It's a absolutely done deal Photoshop. However, you look at the illustration to the right. You're going to want to do that in Illustrator, and this is a critical point, a critical difference between Photoshop and Illustrator. Photoshop is based off of pixels. You guys are familiar, and Illustrator is going to be based off of like Bezier curves, which is based. You guys familiar with that, right? Vectorized images, so that you can scale it from a business card size to the size of the moon, and it's still going to be crisp, clear, and perfect. So anytime you want to do T-shirt designs, logo designs, which we'll get into later, Illustrator is your go-to. So, however, photography, movie posters, any still images that you want to like edit, that's Photoshop. So, we'll get into Photoshop. Let me show you a quick video, which I found last night. It's a super simple video, but you can kind of get a quick idea. I don't know if I'm going to have sound. Probably not. Let's see if this works. So this is it's a quick time lapse of somebody editing a photo. So they took a photo of this dude. They masked out his body, started putting like what looks to be like stone. Now they're kind of filling in some of the shadows, some definition, cleaning it up. All right, now they're removing his head and like all crazy things. Now, of course, they're going to be using multiple tools here, and I'll show you a few of them, since we don't have that much time. But hopefully it'll give you a sense of, and if you already don't have it, but like a sense of what's possible with Photoshop. You'd be surprised. I'm sure you've seen photos out there that look completely realistic, unaltered, and I bet you anything they're Photoshopped, especially in the commercial world. So it just depends on how good you are with the program. So again, adding tons of things. So we skip ahead a little bit. Now he's on fire. And again, Photoshop is a combination of different photography. Back in the early days before computers, people would literally take photocopies of photos and like combine them in a photo lab and then get some of these effects sort of. But of course, with technology, we're doing this now in an actual application, which is, like I said, it's magical. You can see some of the stuff that they're doing, the detail they can go into. So adding some highlights of the fire on the rest of his body. There you go. Yeah. Look at that. See? So that's crazy. Like for me, when I first got into Photoshop, it was mind-blowing that you could just snap a photo of your friend and then put him in space and turn him into a zombie or something. Like you could do that in Photoshop, and it's the greatest thing.
Have you seen the pizza video?
The which one?
The pizza video?
I don't think so.
They're turning pizza into a very nice-looking woman.
Oh, the pizza video. Yes. Yeah, you guys maybe have seen that gone around, right? Like they're making fun of Photoshop where they turn a woman into a pizza or the vice versa. They start with a pizza and it turns into like a model. It's like the magic of Photoshop. That one was ridiculous, but okay. So we're in the program now. So I just grabbed a couple of photos from Google, like right before the presentation, just so we can see we can model it after. I want to show you just a couple of tools that you might be able to get started with if you haven't already. But the first tool that I'll definitely talk about is, your I guess select tool. It's the shortcut is the letter V, or the move tool as they call it. I usually call it select. But I'm on this tool all of the time because that's how you move objects. That's how you move your layers. It's also something to note that Photoshop and Illustrator are based off of a layer system. Back to what I was saying, like when they first started before technology, people would get different layers of pages, print different photos out, and layer them on top of each other. And then depending on how the light hit it, or if they would cut things out and then make a photocopy, that would combine all the layers into one image. That's what Photoshop, that's what Illustrator does technically. So if you see here, on the right, we've got our single layer with our doctor here. You can duplicate that layer if you want. You can bring in other photos if you want. And in fact, let's do that right now because I have a photo of George Clooney as well. What a handsome devil. So he's on his own layer. So what I'm going to do is, what I can do is using the a lasso tool, which is shortcut L. I'm literally just going to copy his eyes. And we're going to see if we can put those eyes on the other photo. So I just selected his eyes. I'm going to Command C to copy. I'm going to go back to my other photo and Command V to paste. So okay, it's a little smaller. So Command T to resize. I'm just going to make it bigger. And holding Shift to keep the proportions. I'm just going to resize it. And I mean, already you've got the what I'm going for here. So obviously we've got a couple of issues. We've got like the skin tone is a little different. We've got where the eyes are, you can kind of see it's a little off. So again, back to your layers. You can kind of turn it off and on to see the original and then the after. The great thing about transparency or opacity in Photoshop, for example, you can kind of turn down the opacity to kind of see where, okay, so like there's his eyeballs. Let me line them up. All right, there we go. So it's, right. So the work of Photoshop, especially if you're doing photo editing, for me is it's a light touch. You kind of have to bring your own like artistic abilities to Photoshop. It isn't just like and I'm done. You kind of have to be delicate. Something that I've learned early on too was always account for your mistakes. So like don't ever leave yourself where you can't undo or you can't like go back to your original photo. So for example, if I would combine these two layers, that's just one layer now. I lost my original photo and my eyes, I can't move individually anymore. So if I would try to move this photo, it's all together. So I'm going to undo that. So now I've got two separate layers, right? So I think controlling your layers, for example, and keeping it open to always, like I said, go back on your mistakes is very, very important. Because I've been knee-deep, hours into work of Photoshop, and you have a question?
Oh, yes. Is there a way to have like 500 undos?
Pardon me?
Is there a way so you can have like 500 undos?
500 undos? I can't remember if Photoshop allows you to go all the way back, but I know like InDesign has like unlimited history. But here's the thing: you don't want to rely on your undos 500 times. You want to just I messed up. Let me delete that layer and start again, or let me just like undo whatever I just did and then start again.
Because sometimes I do like multiple strokes, like a lot.
Yeah, man. It's kind of layer control for sure. So okay, let's try to blend this. Let's try to blend these eyes a little bit. What I'm going to do is basically just change the hue and saturation of George Clooney's eyes to match the skin tone. So here's the hue, which is the hue and saturation tool. And you can see if I go left, I'm turning a little more red. And if I go right, it's a little more green. So you can also preview it. Okay, this is what it was originally, and this is my changes. I don't like any of that. So again, this is bringing your artistic eye to Photoshop. It's like, well, what's different about it? Well, it looks like it's just like too saturated. So maybe I'll just drop the saturation a bit. Oh, there you like too much color in George's eyes. So you just drop that saturation a bit, and now we're matching. Now we're matching a little bit. Yeah, and now you can see some of the inconsistencies. The next thing I'm going to do is just kind of add a, it's basically adding a mask. I'm going to put a mask right on top of George's eyes. It gets a little complicated, and maybe I'm throwing a lot of things out here, but using black and white, you can reveal or show without actually, I guess, deleting any information from George's eyes. I'll show you right now. So I've got a brush here that's kind of a generous size. What I can do is hide or show. See how I'm kind of like erasing? But the great thing about it is it's not literally erasing. I can go back and turn off that mask. So, okay, so that's a little too much. I'm gonna turn my right here. I'm gonna turn my color back to white to reveal George's eyes. I'm gonna drop the size of my brush so I can be a little more detailed. Back to black to delete. White again to expose those eyebrows. Back to black to kind of take away. You want to avoid like hard edges. And again, it's just a patient type of flow. Let's see, back to black to kind of get rid of. And the great thing about it is you have so much customization. These brushes, you can change the hardness level. So if it's a little blur, you know, you can make it very, very blurry and light, just like a painter, or super sharp, where it's just like completely erasing. So I'm gonna go like, 29%. So it's a little softer. So I mean, already that looks decent. I mean, you can't tell, at least I don't think, right? If I'm doing my job correctly, you can't tell that that's two separate photos. Now that, there you go. Yeah, now here's the fun part. What I can do is, let's give him two different eyes. So I'm going to completely erase his left eye. All right, so you can kind of see the fun you can have. And now we can kind of blend. Let's see. There you go. Right. I've always loved Photoshop because you can have fun like this. And it's funny because having fun when I was younger with Photoshop, just messing around, has helped me in my day-to-day job because it's like, if I'm working for a big organization, and it's like, oh man, like we took a photo, but so-and-so is blinking, or here's another photo with her eyes, you could technically get in there and add her eyes back in and make the photo strong. Granted, you don't want to be doing that all the time. Just get the photographer to get a good shot. But, you could make it happen. If it's like for a really important piece, or, your boss is like really upset about whatever, you can make things like that happen. And it just takes practice and just having fun with it. And again, I'll stress yet again, for me, Photoshop is, again, you fueled by your artistic abilities. Just your eye, how you understand light as well. So like photography, studying photos is very important, and like where the light's coming in is very, very, very important. Let's just try to have a little fun here with another piece that I got. There's a, space photo. And I've got some layers in here, like this rocket. So it's just like a vector, it's like an animated rocket. We need to eliminate the white space. So what I do is hit W for, I guess like the select tool. And you can kind of basically do exactly the same thing I did with George's eyes, but around the white, just the white area, for example. And I actually did that before you guys came in, so you don't have to waste time watching me do that. Okay, so we eliminated the white background. But, the lighting is a little weird. This is a little too harsh. So what do you want to do? You want to, again, just similar things. You want to adjust some of the lightness. So it kind of matches the photo in the back. And again, you can, this like flame for me is bothering me. So I'm just gonna, again, on that mask, I'm just gonna take the opacity down on my brush and just kind of, just erase a little bit of it. And again, when you practice it, you get a little better. So we're there. Just gonna resize. You can change the location of it.
You can have like many of them, like an invasion.
Sure, and if you want to duplicate it, we can make a fleet of rockets.
Alien
Right? So the possibilities, man, they're just endless.
Attack.
Now, again, so for me, the issue here, and this is as you get a little more advanced, in my opinion. The issue here now is that these rockets on this right side, the light is the highlight is on the right hand side, but the sun is on the left hand side, right? So, you know, to the eye, that's super important about Photoshop too, is understanding photography. To the eye, it's gonna look weird. Like, you're not gonna know why it looks weird. It's just gonna look weird, because your eye understands lighting and it understands when something looks unnatural. And that, you know, that ties into like video game design. That ties into how you present things in print. So, you know, you can do something as simple as just flipping it around. We're going to flip horizontally. So now the light is on the right side, as if that makes it look more realistic. Right. So I think you guys get the picture of that. There's just so many things you can do. I even added like a gradient map to that background. So now it's like a black and white photo. There's just lots of things. Now, this is all photo like editing for like a single piece. I've used Photoshop for now, gosh, 13 years. And I got super excited when I got into web design. So for me, web design is a very, very different discipline than photo editing. The thing about so this is a web design I did for Magic Valley. If it cooperates. There we go. So you know, you've got text. Now you've got you know, footers, headers, and footers. This is an old design, so sorry for the overlap here. But here, when it comes to web design and Photoshop, the biggest piece of advice I could give is folder organization. I've worked with tons of designers who just find it difficult to, I guess, harness that part of Photoshop, but it gives you so much control. So for example, I've like grouped like the logo into one folder. So if I turn that off, it should turn on. Okay, good. Turn that off. So okay, so now I'm going top to bottom. Top navigation, I've grouped into one folder. So now that turns off. So I know exactly where it is in my folder structure. A lot of other things. You can like select, you know, your photo, I think. Let's see. You should be able to move it around like once you have it. There you go. And again, it's just kind of understanding where your layers are and how they correspond to all the other elements. This takes a lot of organization because there's so many different elements. You know, again, when I first learned that Photoshop was the tool to use when you're doing web design, I was like, well, like photo editing, how does that make any sense with? But the web works off of pixels as well, like Photoshop. So I've done all my web design in Photoshop. So that's one design. This is another one. So you can already see like the photo editing techniques that go into web design as well. You know, I've cropped out this gentleman. I've added some typography, logos, buttons we've created. And the great thing about Photoshop, it's so powerful because you can export all these elements separately, and then you hand them to a developer, who then takes all those elements and then pieces it back together inside of a website. And so when you're organized and you're disciplined with how you lay things out, it makes it very easy to produce web design and websites. So yeah, this is like a fun mock-up challenge I did for TSC. They didn't use it, but I think they should. Let's see what else I got here. Cool. Okay. That's about what I wanted to cover for Photoshop. I was going to transition to Illustrator, but I thought I'd open it up for quick questions about Photoshop. How do you guys would like to, or like, what would you guys like to use Photoshop for? Or like, do you see anything that you may want to learn about? Or how did you do that? Anybody?
You mentioned that you export it to
For web design? Yeah.
How do you save it? How do you translate it?
Yeah, it's basically going to be selecting your layer that like the way we saw. typography and type, you won't have to export. But let's say I want to export this picture. I'm just going to select his layer. There's different ways to do it, and I'll say that too. There's always going to be 15 different ways to do something in Photoshop. But the way I do it is you select your layer. This guy's got a mask around him, so if you see, he's got the white background. What I would do is simply duplicate this layer. I'm going to apply that layer mask, so it's just one single image. I'm going to copy that. This is like way too many steps. Make a new layer, paste him in, remove that background, and I'm going to save it out. So now he's an individual image that a developer can just go and place inside the main homepage. Just like that. Yeah?
Yes, do you use also Dreamweaver? I mean, if you do the design, I understand that you use all the vector images using Illustrator, the photo with Photoshop.
Mm-hmm.
And after you have all the images and all your art done, then you use Dreamweaver, right?
So the question is like exporting out from Photoshop and Illustrator, do we go to Dreamweaver then?
Yes.
Dreamweaver, I honestly haven't touched very much, and like my business partner Jaime doesn't use Dreamweaver, but that's technically what you would do. You would technically export all your elements, all your assets. So like your logo, your photography, everything. Bring that into a program like Dreamweaver, and then you can build out your website. Yeah, yeah. Cool. Yes.
So like kind of continuation to that. So basically you're importing like all the little pieces into Dreamweaver instead of like a huge photo.
Exactly. Yeah. You want to, when it comes to website design specifically, you want everything, mostly everything separated. You just want a bunch of your Legos, right? You want all your Legos together, and then you build it inside Dreamweaver or whatever whatever coding program you want to use. Yeah. There's obviously way more to that, but yep, essentially that's what you want to do. Yeah. All right, let's go to Illustrator. So again, I've got another introductory video so you can kind of see what's doable. Are you ready? So, illustrators, people who like draw on their own, they can literally do that inside Illustrator and make it a vectorized, scalable image. This person is just drawing this little guy. I like this video a lot because you can see that something that starts as like line drawings can really be fleshed out to something fun and engaging. I mean, think of mobile app design that you can make a little character for. Think of your website design that you can make a little character for. T-shirt designs, you name it. So again, this is a time lapse. He's not doing it in real time. That'd be crazy. I'll share it afterwards. So again, he's just using like the pen tool, which is probably the primary tool in Illustrator. That might be debated, but I think it is. And he's just making different shapes that when combined on these different layers look like a character.
So you need a tablet.
Pardon me?
You need a tablet to use Illustrator?
Not necessarily. I know some people who would probably illustrate better with the mouse than with the pen tool, but it's to each his own. To each his own.
Okay.
Yes. Right. Again, I'm sure there's illustrators out there that can do better things with a mouse. It really depends. And again, Illustrator, same way. You bring your artistic skills. If you're a fantastic drawer, you might be able to really leverage Illustrator in a strong way. And again, this is about understanding, not understanding the program. It's understanding how elements work together. Like he's got his depth, nice with the raindrops on the bottom. He's got the raindrops falling in a certain way that looks a little more realistic. Look, he's adding the little details, just little dots, to make it look like the rain is hitting the characters, right? That part takes practice. That part takes research and studying. But the thing I love about Photoshop and Illustrator is that it is a tool that just can channel your own skills. It's not necessarily you can get in there with not knowing anything, and then you're all of a sudden awesome. Yo. Yeah. That's how I learned, man. That's how I learned. I just looked online. I read everything I could possibly read. I watched anything I could possibly watch. And more importantly than that is you get in there and just experiment. Just get in there and try things. Pre-YouTube? Yeah, there's videos that, I mean, there's videos you could download or purchase that would go through in depth. But I'll tell you something, man. The help icon in Photoshop or Illustrator, every time I was clicking around experimenting, I came across something, I was like, how do I do that? Just go up to help and type in something similar of what you're looking for, and it'll have documentation of how to do it. It'll even point you to the tool to use. It's fantastic. It's fantastic. Yeah, so anyway, you get the idea of what we're doing here. Yeah, it gets pretty detailed in there. So let's open Illustrator. Okay, so I found these guys because I liked them because they're hand drawn. These are like literally just line drawings of these cool like lumberjack characters. So like I said, the pen tool I think is the primary tool that you'll be using in Illustrator. And now every shape you make is going to be a vectorized shape. You know, it's scalable from here until kingdom come. So what I would do if I was an illustrator, I basically want to like, you know, digitize this little character. So again, it's going to be all about your layers, kind of being organized with those. If I can find them on this screen. There they are. So here's my template that I'll be using, which is like, let's say I drew this. And then on top of that, I made a traced layer. So I want to keep those separate so they're not, you know, mix and match. So on my trace layer, I'll bust out my pen tool. What I like to do is give this kind of like a red color so I can see where I'm drawing. And let's just trace his mustache, for example. So the P is for pen tool. I don't know if you guys like keyboard shortcuts, but I love them. So we're just going to make anchor points. We're going to drop points, and we'll be able to curve the points based on how we want. So I'm going to drop 1 point right here. Boop. And I think the rule of thumb that I learned anyway was to, if you can use the least amount of anchor points, then you're doing a good job. Because I've seen a lot of people, it's like, it'd be easy to do this, like, but there's going to be way more data there, and you want to make it smoother. So here you've got just like a little bit of a curve on his mustache there. There you go. And you kind of just find your points that feel comfortable. And what I'm doing is clicking, holding, and then dragging that anchor point to make kind of a curve. See that? There you go. And it kind of, Illustrator kind of produces that natural curve on the other end as well for you. Kind of do that with the mouse. Yep.
And you usually like the mouse or a tablet?
I've never used a tablet myself, but that's just me. That's just me, yeah. But I know my business partner uses a tablet. Yeah. Some people swear by it, and yeah, it's to each his own. Like I said, some painters will use different types of brushes.
Have you seen people using the trackpad?
The trackpads with their fingers? Yeah. Woo, that's like a power user right there. I don't know if I'd be able to do that. If you're doing that, then I'm going to buy you a mouse. So there's your anchor points. So now what I like to do usually is just, I can fill it with a color. So now I've got my mustache.
Now I love it.
See, right now you can see the journey, right? Like spend another 3 or 4 hours doing this, and you've got your different, you know,
It is just a layer.
different elements, yeah. And you know, if you wanted to change the, yeah, and if you want to change the color, you can change it to brown, give him a green mustache, whatever. And again, you can add layers on top of that mustache that add some shading and get a little more realistic with it. So I think you guys get the gist of that. Now, this is for illustration of actual characters. What we could also do, and Illustrator is the go-to program for logo design. This is like some presentation boards I did for the McAllen International Airport for 3 different logo options. Again, you can use type in here to produce high quality, you know, high res, print worthy boards. I can literally take this board and blow it up to the size of a building, and it would be sharp, perfectly sharp, which is why I love Illustrator. So like, for example, I'm like way out here, and of course it looks terrible, but you can even zoom into like a corner of this. That's as far as I go, and it's still beautiful, still super smooth. That blew my mind when I first opened Illustrator. I was like, because I've been using Photoshop forever, and I finally learned Illustrator, and I was like, oh my god. Again, these are all different layers. You can select them, arrange things how you want. There's so many tools in Illustrator, it's unbelievable. Yo. Superimpose Illustrator. Yeah, well, see, that's, again, a powerful thing about all these programs. You can take all these elements separately and export them to use in After Effects for animation, video. Yeah, I used to back in the day when Flash was a thing. I took these like Illustrator like vector files and would like make Flash videos that you can like then make anchor points, and like you would tween, right? And you could like make people move, things like that. I mean, that's the basis of animation, is just taking different elements and making them move. Yeah.
Yes. I am a CorelDRAW user.
Corel, yeah.
For years, and CorelDRAW was number 3.
Okay.
And my son was a baby.
Wow. Yes.
I am 16 years old now.
Yep.
The point is, I love CorelDRAW, but I also want to explore Illustrator. But I am thinking, can you export things between the two applications?
Oh yeah.
Because I know
Yeah.
CorelDRAW you can save for Illustrator. But can you do it the other way around? Illustrator can save for CorelDRAW?
CorelDRAW? I've never used. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can. Let's try it.
The extension is CDR.
So I can't save it as a file, but I can export, I think, as a CDR. AutoCAD. You can save as PSD. I don't see it on here. Yeah, maybe not. I haven't come across CorelDRAW recently. But again, the great thing about
But you can do it the other way around. So you can
probably.
You can I know.
Oh, you know? Okay,
Yeah,
great.
but you can do something in CorelDRAW.
Right.
And then do something in Illustrator. So I am want to experiment with the layers.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, that's a great thing. Again, cross-application communication is great. For me, when I design a logo, for example, let's say I want to take this logo and then go into Photoshop and make a web design. I can literally just take this element, which is all vector, copy, and then paste as a smart object, which is what I like to do. And now I'm in Photoshop. And now the great thing about this is, as well, is like this smart object is referencing the vector data from Illustrator. So again, this is crazy. This is one of my favorite things. So let's say I'm going to open my layers palette. Here's my logo, my vector smart object. If I right click and say edit contents, it'll open it up in Illustrator. And let's say I want to, like, you know what, we don't like the plane anymore. Let's just save that vector smart object. Go back into Photoshop. And it's gone. Like, the power behind it is uncanny. And that's because I don't even feel like I'm an expert at this stuff. Like, I use, this much of a variety of things. But it's, again, you bring your own talents to it. You bring your own uses to it. So that's why I love these things. Let's see if I have another. Yeah, so again, the pen tool, big tool in Illustrator. Look at the tool, I guess, bar here. You've got all these different tools that do plenty of things. You've got like a brush tool, which draws in vector, which is nuts to me. I remember using a version of Illustrator that didn't do that. Like, and then they added it. And then you can use like what looks to be Photoshop-esque brushes, and you can like make things that look roughed up in Illustrator, and it's all vector. It's ridiculous. Whoops, maybe not 210 stroke. There you go. So you can get that kind of like flavor even in an Illustrator. So yeah. See, right now it's just it's 2 points right now. It's 2 points, but I mean, that's the thing about Illustrator as well. It can handle this type of rendering in a super strong way. So your files that you save out in vector format, especially in Illustrator and InDesign, are going to be very, very small. But like my web design back in Photoshop, like that's a large file because there's so many elements. There's a lot of information. I don't know the specifics behind the actual like data like management, but I know Illustrator and InDesign handle it very, very well, very well. So I'll be honest with you guys, that's all I've got. So I just wanted to like touch on it and kind of just get the juices flowing. So if you guys have any questions for me, like ask me any issues you're having with Photoshop or Illustrator. I'm just curious as to how you use it and what you're using it for like right now. So who's up first? Anybody? When was the last time you guys opened Photoshop or Illustrator? Yeah. Anybody in the back? Tell me. When was the last time you opened it? Jewelry design. Okay, I got you, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. I catch you.
So I just turned everything black and white.
Right.
And then started doing it. And they're like,
Sure.
people who are not colorblind would actually just see the design drawings. What the hell are
Yeah.
those colors don't even match? I'm like,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. When I'm done with the piece, there's not going to be any color anyway.
All right.
It's a piece of metal.
Right. It's again, it goes back to this.
So what you're overlapping are just the lines and the curves.
Right. Right.
And then you pin it out, put it over the metal, and then you get your tools out.
Right. Right. I mean, it goes for any industry. You can use these tools. You know, Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop. You can use in anything: woodworking, jewelry. You know, architecture, web design, app design, anything. So, anyway, I'll leave you guys there. I'll be around if you guys want to ask me any more questions. So, thanks for hanging in there for me.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you for sharing.
Sure.